Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. Thanks for watching the Hot Zone. How's it going? Are enemy governments successfully getting Americans at each other's throats? Are foreign states buying off conservative pundits to quietly destroy the MAGA movement that brought Trump to power? And is there a straight up Russian asset working on the president's staff? Yeah, I'm going to go there. Welcome to the Hot Zone. I'm Chuck Holton. Today we're going to be talking about something that should have every American wide awake because the attack is not coming from outside the walls necessarily. They're more inside. They're in your phone, in your television, and they're talking directly to you. And their objective is to destroy the United States of America and especially the MAGA movement. Now, before we dive in, let me hit you with something practical. You're watching this video because you know the world's getting more chaotic by the minute. Enemy governments messing with our politics, foreign cash flowing into our media, and now even the economy's starting to feel like a pressure cooker. You've probably been feeling that for some time. Now, look, I spent 10 years as a stockbroker in Washington, D.C., and I helped folks diversify their portfolios when times were good and when things were going sideways, too. And I'll tell you this, markets hate instability. And that's exactly what we've got right now: geopolitical, financial, even moral instability. So the markets are climbing a wall of worry, so to speak. So here's what I'm doing and what I've always done during volatile times. I keep a portion of my savings in physical gold and silver, not paper, not crypto, not some tech company that might tank next quarter. Real tangible assets, stuff you can hold in your hand, stuff that doesn't go to zero when the next war flares up or the Fed changes its mind about interest rates. Gold just hit a record high, north of $3,300 an ounce. And experts are saying it could go much higher. In times like these, that wouldn't be surprising. So that's why I trust Preserve Gold. These guys are really solid. They don't give you any gimmicks, no pressure. They'll deliver gold straight to your door if you want to, or they'll help you move your IRA into a gold IRA. And you can do that legally and easily with them. They'll give you straight talk and they'll even tell you if gold is not right for your portfolio. That's one of the things I like about them. Right now, they're offering my viewers a free wealth protection guide and up to $15,000 in free gold or silver. You heard that right, with a qualified purchase. So just text Chuck to 50505 and they will send you that free wealth guide that will help you get started on your road to protecting your assets. So don't wait for the next wave of chaos to hit. Protect what you've worked for. Visit our sponsor at Preserve Gold. All right, let's talk about all the different ways that enemy states are trying to get in your head and destroy America. First, let's start with Qatar. Tiny country, big checkbook, and they've been using it like a scalpel to cut into American politics lately. Here's what we know. In 2025, Qatar hired a US PR firm called Lumen 8 Advisors under a FARA filing. That FARA stands for the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which requires anybody representing a foreign power to disclose what they're doing and how much they're getting paid for it. In this case, Lumen 8 was getting $180,000 a month to help polish Qatar's image in the United States media and to facilitate an interview between Tucker Carlson and Qatar's prime minister. Now, Carlson did do that interview. It aired in March. It was flattering for Qatar, without a doubt. It got 6 million views, and it was a massive win for Qatar's PR machine. But here's what we don't know. There's no public evidence Carlson or his company took money directly from Qatar. He flat out denies it. So does Luminate. But the optics, not so great. Because while Luminate was flying back and forth to Doha, Qatar, first class, Qatar was ramping up its outreach to conservative media, targeting folks who used to be skeptical of Qatar. And actually, Tucker Carlson was one of those until suddenly he wasn't. And now that doesn't prove corruption, but under FARA, it tells us this: Qatar was trying to influence public opinion in the United States, and they were using their money to do it. Now, throw this in. Carlson's new network reportedly received major investments from, at the very beginning, from a Pakistani billionaire, something like that. Now, that's not Qatar, but it shows the same pattern. Massive wealth funding American media from outside. Now, are there no strings attached to that? You decide. That's up to you. Now, let's talk about other places where Qatar has also been throwing its weight around. Israel. Now, it's they call it Qatar Gate over there, and it's still unfolding as we speak. There are two close advisors to Prime Minister Netanyahu. One guy's named Jonathan Urich, and another guy, Eli Feldstein. They were both arrested back in March. Why? Well, because they allegedly took money from Qatari linked sources to push uh, Qatar's agenda inside Israeli politics and media. Now, that money was reportedly also funneled through a Qatari, uh, I'm sorry, a United States lobbying firm. Uh, the timeline is pretty damning. In July 2024, leaked documents allege Qatar was prepared to pump $50 million into pro Likud media efforts. In February 2025, Israeli media exposed the PR connection. In March, at the end of the month, Shin Bet arrested both aides. Charges included bribery, fraud, and acting as foreign agents. After that, Netanyahu tries to fire the head of Shin Bet. Israel's Supreme Court blocks it. And now you got riots in and protests and stuff in Jerusalem. They're calling it a constitutional crisis. Foreign interference is tearing through American and apparently Israeli institutions. Here's the kicker: Qatar is a known financial backer of Hamas. They say it's humanitarian aid, but it goes to the same place, that tunnel ridden war zone they call Gaza. And it's certainly, since money is fungible and durable, if they're helping anything in Gaza, they are helping Hamas. There's no two ways about it. So if you're wondering how foreign money can destabilize a democracy, just look at Israel, because the same playbook is being used right here in America. Now, how is this playing out in the White House? This one really reads like a spy novel. There's a guy named Sergio Gore. According to Wikipedia, he's a Republican political consultant. He's a Maltese American. They say he was born in Malta. However, when journalists went to Malta and tried to verify that based on his published date of birth, the Maltese government said they had no record of him. That's interesting. This guy graduated from George Washington University. He was appointed by President Trump as the head of the Presidential Personnel Office since January of this year. Now, these cybersecurity researchers, including Brian Krebs, have noticed something strange about this guy, Sergio Gore. The email account, sergio.gore@gmail.com, reportedly shares the exact same password as a Russian Yandex account under Goryachev Sergey at yandex.ru. And that Yandex email traces back to a Sergei Anatolovich Goryachev, born in Saratov, Russia. Now, he's got a Russian tax ID, a Russian phone number, the works. Now, there's a different Sergei Goryachev who was a Russian general who got killed in Ukraine in 2023. Not the same guy. But it adds to the confusion for sure. Is Sergio Gore a real person? Well, yes, we know he is, but could he be a Russian born operative and then become a presidential appointee? Well, technically, yes, because he has not yet filled out his 100-page form that is required to get a security clearance. Now, this is a guy working at the right hand of President Trump who does not yet have a security clearance because he refuses to fill out the form. But he has been himself in charge of hiring and vetting up to 4,000 people in the Trump administration so far. So this raises a very real question. Do we have a foreign national influencing White House hiring right now? We don't know for sure, but someone should definitely look into that, and they should force Sergio Gore to turn in his paperwork and get the background check required to get his security clearance, because he shouldn't be sitting right next to President Trump if he doesn't have one. Now, Russia's been playing the long game doing this kind of stuff for a long time, long before President Trump came to office. But in 2025, they leveled up. There was a report from the Network Contagion Research Institute, which exposed how Russia and Iran coordinated a massive social media attack specifically aimed at conservative America. Now, over 675 false flag posts have been flooding, I'm sorry, 675,000 have been flooding Twitter and Telegram, pretending to be from hardcore patriots. These accounts attacked real Trump supporters and amplified fringe voices like a guy named Draven Noctis, or like Tucker Carlson, or like who's that guy from InfoWars, Alex Jones, people like that. And the things that Tucker and Alex were saying might not have been necessarily, let's say they may have contained a grain of truth, but what these 675,000 posts, tens of thousands of fake accounts did was to twist it just a little bit, pervert what they said just a little bit, and take it out of context or something like that to basically discredit patriots, make them look like lunatics, and make these fringe influencers, is what I'll call them, people like Candace Owens and Tim Pool. I mean, Tim Pool, he's pretty mainstream, except for the fact that it came out last year that he and some other conservative media outlets had taken hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to sort of temper their reporting about Russia. Now, they definitely deny that, but the proof is out there that they were paid massive amounts of money by organizations that tied themselves back to Russia. Now, these bot farms that Russia runs and Iran is running, they even use AI, and they even attack our YouTube account. Whenever I publish anything that is negative about Russia, we get Russian bots that are in the chat that are just causing trouble all the time. We have to go through and delete, 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 delete. And oh, by the way, if you're posting something that sounds a lot like those Russian bots, you're going to get deleted too, because I don't have time to track every one of these down and make sure that they're a real person. Now, they push memes, fake screenshots, and some of those things go viral, and they make it into actual news media. And so the message I think here is clear. If Russia and Iran can't beat America militarily, well, they're going to try to corrupt it from the inside, and they're going to try to play us against each other, especially within the MAGA movement. They are targeting you, folks. There's no two ways about that. Now, China, they're about buying the battlefield more than they are about bots, although they'll use bots as well. They spent $19 million inserting China Watch, they called it, propaganda into the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. They funneled over $1 billion into U.S. universities and funded Confucius Institutes on campus to push sanitized Chinese culture and make Chinese culture sound great, all while suppressing discussion about Taiwan or Tiananmen Square and whipping up the near religious fervor of college students for Gaza. Why? Because it's akin to burning down the United States from the inside. They've hired TikTok influencers to polish Beijing's image. They've created fake local news sites in the US to amplify the CCP talking points. And they don't even try to hide it because we let them. Now, Venezuela, Cuba, they're all using the same playbook. Venezuela uses a couple of channels called Telesur and Hispan TV to target Spanish speaking Americans with anti US, anti Israel, anti capitalist content. Cuba, they're more like slow burn, cultural outreach, academic penetration. They do all those kinds of things. But let's not forget, Ana Montes was a senior analyst at the Defense Intelligence Agency, and she spied for Cuba for 17 years. She passed background checks, and nobody saw it coming. So, now to be fair, we do this too. Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, we spent $800 million a year to broadcast U.S. ideals around the globe. That's called soft power. And that's exactly what Qatar is doing. That's exactly what China is doing. But you obviously, we're trying to foment democracy around the world and not destroy America. So soft power is a double-edged sword. It works really well both ways. Qatar is working very hard to sort of fix its image and try to go after Republican pundits who talk about Qatar being a state sponsor of terror, shielding and sheltering Hamas operatives, especially the higher echelons. And so now the Trump administration just shut down America's soft power arm, that was USAID, and for good reason. But the question is, now that there's a vacuum out there, that the United States is no longer engaging in a whole lot of soft power, well, what else is left? If we want to have an influence on geopolitics around the world, and we don't want to use soft power to do it, that means spending money. Well, then we're going to have to use hard power. And hard power is much more expensive in the long run. It's much more damaging. You just look at what's this buildup in the Middle East. We haven't fired a shot yet over there, but we've already got $100 billion floating around in the Straits of Hormuz and the Bab el-Mandab Strait and the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. Why? Well, because that's what we have left if we don't engage in soft power. Now, this isn't a red versus blue issue. This is a foreign power versus your national sovereignty. They're buying off influencers. They're flooding social media with lies. They're embedding operatives. They're funding think tanks. They're coaching pundits. And the American public is stuck in the crossfire. That's the way they want it. What I'm trying to say is you are being manipulated daily, not just by your political enemies, but by our geopolitical enemies across the globe. So the next time you feel like your blood is boiling over a tweet or a news story, ask yourself, who benefits if I'm angry? Now, let me just say, I don't have a problem with pundits or conservative commentators or anybody making money doing what they do. I mean, obviously, I do this for a living, and this is how I make my money too. And that's why we have Preserve Gold as a sponsor. But Preserve Gold does not tell me what to say and how to say it. They don't have any say at all editorially over what the content of my show is. And that's different if you're being wined and dined and flown first class by Qatar over there to I don't know, make Qatar look better, to change your tune on Iran, to change your tune on Russia. Now, how do we counter this? Well, here's what you can do. You first demand full transparency from universities, think tanks, and pundits. Support real enforcement of the FARA Act through your lawmakers. Ask your lawmakers who's paying their consultants and question where your media comes from and who's funding it. So the last thing you can do to help is get this video out so more people can see it, so people will understand the scale of this problem. Because the best defense is an information war is an informed public. So they're targeting patriots across the United States. They're using money, media, and manipulation to turn us against each other. But now, at least you know. So thanks for watching. That was your condensed version of today's live. This is the Hot Zone. We'll see you. Please hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and let me know in the comments what you think. Who's the biggest threat? Qatar, Russia, China, Iran, or maybe even somebody already inside the White House? See you next time. Take care.